Hi YouTube. Hi YouTube world. Hi my subscribers. I just wanted to talk today about chronic illness and in particular talking about irritable bowel syndrome. So I suffer from 3 chronic illnesses. I've mentioned them in other videos, migraines, endometriosis, and the one I haven't discussed yet is irritable bowel syndrome. So I wanted to talk about what's helped me with irritable bowel syndrome in this video. I'll make other videos about my migraines and endometriosis. But I wanted to talk about irritable bowel syndrome because that's the one that I've been able to treat the best. And I would never say that I'm cured because I really don't like when people on YouTube make videos saying I'm cured from this chronic illness or I'm cured from that chronic illness, because I don't think that's true. Chronic illnesses are just that. They are chronic, so you can learn to manage them and learn to live with them and live a healthy lifestyle and do all these things to help you with your condition, but I don't think you can ever truly be cured from chronic illnesses. Now, that's just my belief, but it kind of upsets me when people say, I'm cured from this, because it's like, it's not a cold, it's not some type of infection that you take an antibiotic for and boom, you're cured. Like, there's always a potential for a flare-up, in my opinion, and it's something you always kind of have to be on the lookout for. And people who have chronic illnesses like myself, especially serious, even more serious and complicated ones such as diabetes or whatever it is, you learn that you have to take care of yourself better than people who don't. So, I mean, I consider myself pretty healthy, but like most Americans, I have a couple chronic illnesses that I've learned to live with and learned to manage, sometimes better, sometimes not as good as I should be. But as far as irritable bowel syndrome, which is what I wanted to talk to you guys about, it's somewhat common chronic illness, and it affects like mostly just females, but I'm sure there's probably some males who suffer from this as well. And it is a lot of digestive problems, and a lot of times it's brought on related to emotional problems, although probably not for everybody. Everybody, has different causes and symptoms of their illnesses, but for me, that was definitely true. So how I've managed it over the years is there's 2 main things that I'm going to talk to you guys, well, 2 main things mainly that have helped me. But you might be asking yourself, well, what is irritable bowel syndrome? So like I said, it mainly affects females. It has a lot to do with emotions, although it's not just an emotional thing. It is a physical disorder that can be brought on by that, but you definitely do have physical symptoms in the digestive systems. So for me, some people with irritable bowel syndrome get bloating, they might have stomach aches, like discomfort in their stomach area, some type of pain. For me, I would get immediate flushing, like feeling like I was getting way overheated, and then urgency to have to go to the bathroom right away, and lots of intestinal cramping. So lots of stomach cramping, intestinal, feeling like I had to go to the bathroom. It's kind of embarrassing telling you guys about this, but I wanted to be open because I know there's a lot of people who suffer with it out there. And if you're somebody who just wants to know more, there you have it. So, it's kind of it's kind of embarrassing. Some people might be embarrassed to go see a doctor about it, but go see a doctor if you're having any of those symptoms I'm talking about, because you need to get treated. That's like the first step in most disease processes, is getting a diagnosis, figuring out what you have, so then we can learn like how to treat it with your doctor. But anyways, so yeah, so also when I would get all that cramping, I would start feeling flushed, really overheated, and then I would have to go to the bathroom. And I mean, it could be like, it wasn't like a normal bowel movement. It would be like diarrhea. And a lot of time while I'm having that, I would feel like I need to throw up at the same time. So it's very uncomfortable. It kind of feels like if you've ever had a very bad stomach bug, that's kind of what it feels like. Like you just need to empty, your body just wants to dump like no pun intended, your body wants to dump everything inside of you, is irritable bowel syndrome. So, that being said, and you might even, sometimes with that, you might even see like a little bit of blood as well. I want to say that I might have seen blood. I can't remember exactly, but I think I probably have. But bleeding is never a good sign. If you do have bleeding, you need to go to the doctor, because it could be something even more serious. But anyway, sometimes you can have a stomach bleed from, or blood in your stool sometimes, just from like your stomach being so irritated, and your intestines and everything. Like sometimes people drink too much alcohol, but I'm not saying that's what you have. You could have something as serious as cancer, so you need to go. I encourage you, if you're having bleeding in your stool, go see a doctor, but that can be a symptom of irritable bowel syndrome. So anyway, without all that being said, I started noticing what my triggers are. So whenever you have a chronic illness, whether it's migraines like I talked about, whether it's lupus or some other autoimmune disorder, you want to be tracking on a calendar when you're having flare-ups of your disease, what your symptoms are, and then also, what do you think might have triggered it? Like, did you not eat that day? Did you not get sleep? Did you have a rough day at work? Were you fighting with your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever? What do you think might have contributed to it? That way we can start seeing a pattern and what you need to work on. And especially diet as well is very important, I think, to track that, because a lot of times our diets affect our health conditions. So anyway, I figured out that my triggers were big emotional upsets. So I'm talking about, especially for me, it was like related to people I was dating. So like if I found out somebody was cheating on me, I would immediately like have a flare up very shortly after. I would get upset, I would cry, and then that would happen. And I also, why I think I got irritable bowel syndrome is because it runs in my family. My mom has that. Thanks, Mom. So if somebody in your family has it, you're more at risk, okay? And that combined with I had lot of rocky relationships in my teenage years and my early 20s, where the guy was either cheating on me, breaking up with me randomly, fighting with me, ignoring me, whatever. So that, and I also grew up in a stressful household. There was constant fighting. It was a very dysfunctional household to grow up in. And I didn't have a lot of good support. Like, I didn't have the best friends growing up either. So I would bottle up all my emotions, and when stuff upset me, it would just keep building up, and then something bad would happen with somebody I was dating, and then I would, like, within 20 minutes, I would start, I would cry, and then within 20 minutes, I would have an episode of GI flare-up, and like diarrhea, feeling like I need to throw up. I think sometimes I did throw up with that. The reason why I'm kind of like, I can't remember if I was throwing up or if I had blood, but I think I did, is because I'm now 31 and I don't really have flare-ups. If I do, it's like once every couple years. And so the reason why is because I identified those triggers and I changed those triggers, the ones I could control, from not happening as much. So I started getting into healthier relationships. I moved away from my family. I still talk to my family and all that, but I don't live with them anymore. So I got out of that like toxic environment. I started upgrading my men. Like, now I'm married and I have a very loving husband. So I got out of those toxic dating situations that I was always in. And I have better friends now as well, who are more supportive, more kind, who I feel more comfortable sharing things with. So that's the first thing that really helped me, was identifying that trigger, all the emotional problems, and then learning how to distance myself and start new healthy relationships. And especially dating wise, that was a huge trigger for me, because it's really upsetting. Like, for most people, if you're in a toxic marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend situation, it can really start to affect your health. So if you feel like you're stuck in one of those relationships, check out my other video on tips to leave an abusive relationship. So anyway, so I really don't have flare-ups anymore. Like I said, it's maybe once every couple years, if that. But it was learning how to distance myself from those negative people and learning how to express myself. Now that I'm, an adult and I feel safe in my marriage and my friendships, I feel comfortable expressing myself, because when I was younger, I bottled everything up and put everybody else's needs ahead of mine, like a lot of women do, because we put other people before us, and there was so much fighting growing up that I kind of just put everybody's needs ahead of mine, and then I never really took care of my own emotional needs, and then I would get all these physical problems. And what some people don't realize with IBS, it's not just, oh, you have all these emotional problems. No, there's physical symptoms. Like, you literally, your body is saying, I'm not okay with all this stress, and it literally like starts to act out, basically, is what I think. There's a huge connection between our physical health and our mental, emotional health. So anyways, that was the biggest thing, I think, that really helped my IBS. And if you are in abusive relationships, you need to get out of them. And I know that's easier said than done, but you need to be living in a safe home and you need to be around positive people. So if you need to go to therapy, if you need to go to support groups to learn how to start developing normal, healthy relationships because you grew up dysfunctionally like I did, then you should do so, because anybody who grows up in a dysfunctional family is very much at risk for repeating the cycle of abusive and toxic relationships, and then your body starts to act out and you start to have physical problems. So take care of yourself. So that's my number one tip. The second thing that really helped me with IBS, and it might even be the only cause for your IBS. You might not have these emotional problems like I did, but you have some type of food intolerance. And I've seen videos, I think the videos on YouTube that are like, I cured myself from this diet, that's what they're talking about. But I don't think you can ever 100% be cured from IBS because it's chronic. But I did notice I have a dairy insensitivity. I even went to a GI specialist, and that's how I got diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. But he thought I might have like a dairy intolerance because it did affect me. Like, I really noticed that was a big trigger for me as well. But he said I probably didn't have lactose intolerance because it's more common in like African Americans, Latinos, Asians, and I forget why, but for some reason he didn't test me for it, but he was like, I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more IBS, which I agree with this doctor. However, I do think I do have a dairy intolerance, and in fact, my older brother, he thinks he's lactose intolerant because he has a lot of digestive issues with dairy as well. So for me, I try not to eat a ton of dairy, but I haven't cut it out of my diet completely because I love dairy as much as it doesn't like me. I love cheese. I love ice cream. I love milkshakes. But I know those things aren't necessarily the healthiest for me, and in general, dairy is not very good for a lot of people unless it's low fat, because you can get calcium from other sources like vegetables, a lot of like fortified cereals, and like orange juice comes fortified with vitamin D now, so you don't really have to even have dairy anymore. And there's better options, but I just love the taste of dairy. So I've kind of like cut down on it, but I haven't completely cut it out because there's too many foods I love with dairy in it. But I might not like put a ton of cheese on stuff, but I will sprinkle some. I love ice cream, but I'm not going to sit there and eat out of a tub of ice cream. I'm going to make like myself a little small portion. And I'm going to, use substitutes for things like milk. Like I don't even really like the taste of milk that much, but I do love chocolate milk. So what I'll do is I'll drink like Yoo-hoo or something like that that isn't really actual dairy but has that taste. And that's kind of how I've managed my symptoms. And I also think dairy, in general, my body does not like, and it can, I think, cause flare-ups of other things for me as well. Like I wonder if it triggers my endometriosis sometimes as well. So I just try to kind of cut down on it. For most people, I don't think it's realistic to completely cut out of their diet unless they're vegan or something. So that's why I just cut down on it. Because I am, one, I need vitamin D because I'm a female, and females are more at risk to have like osteoporosis later in life. And so I'll try to eat like things to like dairy, things that are dairy but less inflammatory, like yogurt. I do like yogurt, and I feel like that is good for your digestive system, and I don't feel like it irritates my system as much as like having a big glass of milk or a lot of milk in my cereal, whatever. And there's also a lot of like alternative milks out there anyways that you can get. Like if you're having problems with dairy, I suggest like trying almond milk, try soy milk, try I think there's even like there's coconut milk. Like try those instead if you have a sensitivity to it, or try cutting down as well. So that's what I do. So start keeping a journal of what foods you're eating, because a lot of times you might have some sensitivity to something, and it's a good idea to start like seeing what foods are associated with your flare-ups. Yeah, so that's basically my tips if you suffer from IBS, what it is, what helped me. So cutting out dairy and cutting out abusive relationships, and just kind of not bottling up my emotions as much as well, like feeling safe enough in the relationships that I have to discuss like my feelings and not hold everything in. So yeah, those three things, and then the fourth thing, which I already mentioned, is just with any chronic illness, keep a diary or journal, a calendar tracking when your flare-ups are happening, what's happening before, what helps relieve them, so you can get to the bottom of it. And also, you need to go see a doctor as well to help like narrow down what it is. Like for me, I thought it was, oh, I'm just lactose intolerant, but then we realized, oh, there's probably it's a little more complicated than just dairy intolerance. It was related to my emotions as well, and that's why it's IBS and not just lactose intolerance. So anyways, and the reason too how I know that doctor was correct that it was IBS and not just a dairy thing is because as an adult, I have had times where I just eat tons of dairy even though I shouldn't, and I didn't have that like cramping and flushing and having to go to the bathroom right away. So like I might have some like stomach discomfort, but it's not nearly like what it was when I was a teenager or whatever. So yeah. If you have any tips, questions, comments, please leave them below. I'm open to discussing about it. Yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, till next time, guys. Catch you later.